Hi students, so you have decided to take up the GRE. Let me congratulate you for taking up this challenge. In this video, first let's discuss the GRE in general and try to understand the new GRE exam, and then let's start understanding the quantitative section in the GRE in a better manner. So to start with, let's take a look at the new GRE exam format. So over here you can see that you have an analytical writing section, and then you have two sections for verbal reasoning, and in a similar manner you have two sections for quantitative reasoning as well. All right, so the first section over here when you write the GRE would be the analytical writing section. You will get that first, and when it comes to verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning, you could get either one of them first and then the other one. So it depends or varies from person to person. All right, and do remember that because the new GRE exam is shorter in nature, there is no scheduled break between the sections. All right, now let's take a look at these sections or components in a more detailed manner. When it comes to analytical writing, the one essay that you will be asked to write is the analyze an issue essay, or the essay task which is mentioned over here would be that of analyzing an issue. All right, and for that you will be given 30 minutes. Now, when it comes to the first verbal reasoning section, you will have 12 questions, and for that you will be given 18 minutes. And in the second verbal reasoning section, so this is over here number 2, you will be given 15 questions and you will be given 23 minutes to answer those 15 questions. Now notice that for these two sections, the average time that you have per question is about 1.5 minutes per question. Now when it comes to the quantitative reasoning section, for section 1 you have 12 questions and 21 minutes, and for section 2 you have 15 questions and 26 minutes. All right, so you can see that for the quantitative reasoning section you have about 1.7 minutes per question, or it's a little bit higher than 1.5 minutes per question. All right, in this way the total duration of the exam is 1 hour 58 minutes, or about 2 hours. So just to quickly revise, you have the analytical writing section first, then you may either get the verbal reasoning section or the quantitative reasoning section, and in each of these, that is for verbal reasoning you have two sections, and for quantitative reasoning also you have two sections. Now the GRE is a section adaptive test, and we will discuss that in the upcoming part of this video. Now before we move ahead, let me give you a powerful tip which will take your score either to the next level or pull it down. Do remember that it's very important to get a good night's sleep before the exam. So if you can ensure that you get good sleep before the exam, let me guarantee you that it will take your score to the next level. Now for this, you need to ensure that you sleep in a good manner at least 1 month prior to your exam, right? You can't just be taking out night outs like studying the whole night for a long period and then expect suddenly to sleep well on the day before the exam. So do ensure that you have a good sleeping schedule, and things like having an exercise regime can help you in this. All right, so let's move on. Now when it comes to scoring, the analytical writing section will give you a score between 0 to 6. All right, and the average score that students typically tend to get is something between 3.5 and 4, and over here for the analytical writing section the increments in points is in 0.5 points. Now when it comes to verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning, the scores range between 130 and 170 each, and the increments is in 1 point increments. All right, so with the verbal score and the quantitative score, your total score will be between 260 and 340. And when we talk about the average score that students typically tend to get, the average is about 150 points per section. All right, now remember, it's very important that you check any requirements that your target school may have, so that you can ensure that you meet those requirements, because requirements can vary from program to program that you're targeting. For example, if you're targeting an engineering program, probably it would have a requirement for a higher quant score, and let's say you're targeting an English literature program, in such a case there may be a requirement for a higher verbal score. So do check the target school requirements, that will come in very handy. Now, do remember that the GRE exam is a section adaptive test. So the quant and verbal reasoning sections are section adaptive in nature. Now let's try to understand what that means. Previously, we have seen that for each of the quant section and the verbal section, you have two sections each, right? You have section 1 and section 2 for quant and verbal. Now, when we say that these are section adaptive in nature, what we mean is that first, you will be given section 1, which will be of medium difficulty level. Now, based on your performance for section 1, in section 2, you will either get a hard test or a medium test or an easy test. So it will depend on your performance in section 1. Now, the advantage of getting a hard test in section 2 is that over here, this one, getting a hard test has a higher scoring potential than getting a medium or easy test in section 2. Now, what does that mean? Let's say over here you have two persons, you have B and you have hen. Let's say B was able to crack the hard section, or B did well in section 1, and because of that, as part of section 2, B got the hard test, and hen over here got only the medium test as part of section 2. Now let's say B was able to do 12 out of 15 questions correct in section 2, and hen was able to do 13 out of 15 questions correct in section 2. Notice that hen has done more questions right? So that's 13, and B has done only 12 questions right out of 15. But just because of the fact that B had entered the hard test, the final score of B will be higher than the final score of hen, right? So one right question in this section is lower, gives you lower number of points than one correct answer in this section. All right. So notice over here, it's important to get into the hard section for section 2 to reach your dream score probably, and to reach over here, you have to do well in section 1, which starts at a medium level. And for this, you need to be able to tackle hard questions as well. And this course will equip you for that in a very good manner. All right. Now, because the GRE is section adaptive in nature, or the quant and verbal sections of the GRE are section adaptive tests, there is a good news, because it's not a question adaptive test where each question changes the difficulty based on your previous performance. That's not the case. It's the whole section that changes, right? So over here, if you're doing well, you're getting the hard section, or if you're not doing that well, you will get either the medium or the easy section, right? The question in that section then does not change. So that means that within a section, you can move back and forth between questions, and you can change answers as many times as you want. So that is another advantage of the GRE being section adaptive in nature. Now let's take a look at the relationship between score and percentile on the GRE. So over here, notice that if you're getting a 170, then that would be a 94 percentile on quantitative reasoning, which means that 6% of test takers tend to get a 170. And in a similar manner, if you're getting a 169, that's a 91 percentile, and a 168 is a 87 percentile. All right. And when it comes to verbal reasoning, notice that a 170 and a 169 both is considered as a 99 percentile. So only 1% of the test takers get 160 and above, and then 168 is considered as 98 percentile, 167 is considered as 97 percentile, and it goes on in such a manner. Now this GRE Quant course will help you reach your dream score. So let us try to aspire to be in the top percentile. All right. So it's very much possible to reach a 168 or 169 or 170 score with dedicated and focused preparation. And that's what this course will help you do. Now, when it comes to taking the GRE, you can either take it at a test center or you can take it at home as well. Now, a few pointers about taking the GRE at home. Now, for this, remember, you will be monitored by a human proctor, and remember, you need a computer, you need a movable webcam so that you can show your room to the proctor, and you need a microphone and a speaker. Now remember, headsets are not allowed for taking the GRE at home. So this is something that you need to keep in mind. And another important point is that when it comes to your rough work for taking the GRE, and when you're taking at home, you're allowed either a whiteboard or you're allowed a piece of paper inside a transparent sheet protector with an erasable marker. All right. So if you're deciding to take the GRE at home, decide what kind of material you would want to use for your rough work, and do ensure that you practice either with a whiteboard or with a piece of paper inside a transparent sheet protector with an erasable marker. So do practice using whatever material you decide on so that you're comfortable with it when you're taking the exam. All right. So we have got a good idea about the GRE, its various sections, what's the scoring nature of the GRE, etc. Now, let's try to understand the different types of questions that can come for the GRE Quant section. Now, for the GRE Quant section, there can be 5 types of questions. The first type of question is quantitative comparison question. Now, in quantitative comparison question, you will be given 2 items. So let's say this is item A and this is item B. So let's say over here under A it's said 0.1 and under B it said 0.01 into 2. Now you need to identify whether A is greater or B is greater, or whether the things mentioned in option A and B are equal, or whether you can't determine it, right? So that's what you need to identify in quantitative comparison questions. Now, the second type of GRE Quant question that you can get are multiple choice questions, where you need to select one answer choice. Now, there are also multiple choice questions where you need to select one or more answer choices. Remember, sometimes the number of options to be chosen is specified in the question. So do read the question carefully to identify and attempt the question accordingly. Now, the fourth type of GRE Quant question is numerical entry questions. Now, if you have to enter a number or a decimal, you will be given one box like this. Or if you have to enter a fraction, then you will be given 2 boxes like this, and you have a division symbol in between them. All right. Now, when it comes to the fifth GRE Quant question, it's data interpretation questions, where you have a paragraph. All right. So you'll be given a paragraph, and then based on the paragraph, you will be given 3 questions per section. Now, the questions that can come as part of a data interpretation set can be of type 2, 3, or 4, which is these 3 types. All right. So you can't have quantitative comparison questions as part of a data interpretation set, but any of these 3 type of questions can come. So these are the 5 types of GRE Quant questions that you can get. Now let's discuss what strategy you should be using to get a top percentile score for the GRE. Now, ensure that you have a concepts first strategy and that you build rock solid fundamentals first. After that, go ahead and solve basic level questions, and then move ahead and also be able to solve hard questions. So this is the approach that we will be taking in this course, and this course will help you reach your dream GRE score. See you in the next video.